Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I guess first up is we got two presentations to swear in Officer Chad Gilbert and Brian Collmore. Would they please step up? Okay. You have the paperwork.
Phone's very
That's not,
distracting.
this is not the time to
Just imagine if you're driving doing that, right?
My daughter's graduating college and she just invited me to go.
Did you pay for it? Because that was very nice of her.
Very thoughtful.
One at a time.
Yep. Right.
Pictures.
No, that would be. All right. I state your name.
I, Brian Collmore,
Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
as long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
as long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
I will, in all respects,
I will in all respects
observe the ordinances of the town of Waldeboro
observe the ordinances of the town of Waldeboro
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Maine,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of a patrolman
and will faithfully discharge the duties of a patrolman
for the issuing municipal year.
for the ensuing municipal year.
You all set? Okay. Come in.
You gotta shake.
Oh, yeah, shake. There you
You want me to do
Chad.
Chad.
next? Okay. We do them every.
Chad's much more experienced at this. So.
I state your name.
I, Chad Gilbert,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
I will, in all respects,
I will in all respects
observe the ordinances of the town of Waldeboro
observe the ordinances of the town of Waldeboro
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine.
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine,
I will faithfully discharge the duties of a patrolman
and will faithfully discharge the duties of patrolman
for the ensuing municipal year.
for the ensuing municipal year.
All set?
Thank you.
This was our formal ceremony.
And Chief Lash, would you like to say something?
Yeah, Chad's been here since the beginning of the school year, so this is kind of overdue for him. But Brian just came on a little over a month ago, and I can't tell you how lucky we are to have these two guys. They're experienced. They're just they're great with the public, and yeah, we're just really lucky. And especially in today's climate, where it's hard to get police officers. We're really, 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 really lucky to have these guys. So here they are, and I'm sure you'll see a lot more of them.
I hope not.
And it just goes to show you too, when everybody else is fighting for police officers, we had two come to us, and I think that speaks volumes for our chief and the rest of our department, that they want to be part of the Waldeboro Police Department.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is the Karen Ann Edgar.
He's at the school.
Oh, yeah.
The Karen Ann
Uniform
Edgar.
to school.
Where would you like?
Where's the uniform
Right
to
up at
school?
the
Sometimes.
electoral, please.
He
You
doesn't,
won't
he
be able to
doesn't wear
see me.
a tie.
Oh,
He doesn't dress up.
We need her a stepping stool.
No?
We'll try this.
Oh.
Oh, look at her.
Oh, geez.
Uh-oh, she has a mic. She may sing.
Don't drop it, please.
Yeah.
So I did put up, hey everybody, thanks for having me. And I will say that I am very humbled, and I was hoping the guys would stick around because, you know, as I reflect on, as I get into my job and it evolves, it's not the Community Navigator show. It really is that this is a team that I have been just so blessed to be part of, and I'm just one piece of that team. It's everyone, even in this room, that makes it possible to do what I do. And you know, I was looking at stats, and I was looking at, you know, what's the majority, and I have all those, And some of you may have read the article that Rebecca Cooney did with me, and I was really honored because she was such a sweet lady. I was talking to Will before that she just makes it easy to talk about Waldoboro and talk about being part of Waldoboro. And she asked me to think of a place that was special in Waldoboro. And I didn't grow up here, so I couldn't really name like a river or brook or something like that. And I was really grappling with that one because my place is right here in this building. And my place is amongst this team and that team and fire and EMS. And I drove in that day and I was like, you know, I was married and hadn't shared it with other than Julie, who performed the wedding, but I drove in and I was just, you know, I got a little nervous because I was uncomfortable, but and I always want to give answers. I want to be successful in giving answers and solutions. And I drove in and it was that beautiful day that we had last week, I think, and the EMS vehicle was out there, the police vehicle was out there. I think you could even see the fire truck. And when I drove in, I was like, there isn't a place outside of this property. Like, if she wants to take my picture, it has to be by those vehicles because it really does represent the team here at Waldoboro. And I can't express that enough. And that really wasn't my rehearsed speech, but that's where I'm talking from my heart with that. And again, I hope folks relay that to that team that just walked out the door because, you know, when they're calling me or I'm calling them, there's a feeling like no other that makes me happy and proud to be part of you all and the team. So I don't know exactly what you'd like to hear, but I did put together some of the numbers, just the trends of what we've had since August when I reported last. And of course we had those holidays in there, so we did serve, I don't necessarily have the numbers for our Thanksgiving baskets and our Christmas baskets, although it kind of correlates for food. But we did serve 48 families at Christmas time, and that was 97 children that got taken care of, you know, and provided a nice Christmas. There were 2 post-fire ventions that I like to call them that I got to be part of, and some of you know one of those stories, and we followed it through. We're still following it through, and that individual is doing really, really well, and I'm proud to say that again, this team helped make that happen. Housing remains really a crisis, and that's not just here in Waldoboro, as we know. We did have a really lovely case manager who was working with Titford Housing that was supporting a lot of the work and very successful, in fact, with the post-fire. But she has gone to another organization. So unfortunately, we do not have someone in that position that's supporting me right now. And I feel that, you know, when I can't quickly come up with a solution because the housing needs are so diverse. But they did meet today, and I just wasn't able to attend that meeting. So we're hoping a new case manager for housing will be there. The other big ones are child care resources and mental health, children's mental health services that were needed. There were 2 funeral coordination needs that were taken care of. One of those actually got sponsored by a local business because it was a young mom of children that lost her husband to a suicide. Elder care with several cases. I already mentioned the holiday aid. The food connector resources was a couple. The food pantry is really good at answering the call when we have that need. there was a couple transportation with fish transportation, and then heat and utilities is often one. And I predict that's gonna have a huge uptick as we're facing the gas prices, but also fuel prices. But having CHIP and the Community Energy Fund, I'm one of their gatekeepers, so that we can do that a little bit. It's expedited a little bit faster because I work directly with them. So I did make a list of all the different community partners, but I think Community Energy Fund, CHIP, Healthy Lincoln County with food in addition to the food pantry. DHHS has been reaching out more and more. We worked on one case and it was really successful, and Adult Protective Services and Children's Protective Services have been reaching out frequently to have us as a partner to help them serve the families that they serve in our town here. So, does anybody have any questions? Because I feel like, yeah.
Give me one good story. We always have one. We have so many. Just choose
we
one.
have so many. It's so hard because you can guess who they are sometimes. That's the balance that I have. But
make it generic.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to the one that the newspaper covered, and you know, you have a gentleman that's living in a camper, and there's a fire, and you know, as horrible as that situation was, it uncovered a lot of needs that were needed and had been needed for a long time. And you know, I can probably list off 5 or 6 resources that we were able to partner with you know, partners even in Knox County that helped provide, and you know, Will helped with that. I mean, that's the thing that I'm trying to stress is all I got to do is make a phone call or reach out or ask Julie who the best person to reach out to, and I always imagine it like a cog, like a wheel, and we're all a cog, and we all make that, bring that to fruition. But this gentleman is being served by a case manager now, and he's got Meals on Wheels coming to him, and he's hopefully transitioning back locally to a safe and warm environment with supports that were needed probably since he was a young man. So that's been my big, you know, one that I love picking up the phone and checking in with him, because and people have identified that they can like reach to me and say, hey, how's he doing? And I did ask Moody's how he was doing recently, and they were happy to give me a report on him. So.
And it's interesting because they don't always have to be big stories. They can be little stories too. But, you know, I sit next to Karen Ann's office, and Peg, we have that little corner. And it's just nice sometimes, you know, you'll hear little bits and pieces, not much detail, but you know good is being done very close, and it brightens up your day. And it's of all ages. It's not just kids. It goes from kids to like
all ages.
Seniors.
Yep. Literally birth to death. Yeah.
Good. We're lucky we have you an additional day a week now. Has that made a difference to you?
It does because you know, I'm spread out. I was spread out Monday and Thursday, right? And I did that kind of strategically just so that, you know, for various reasons. But when you know, sometimes numbers doesn't do it justice, because it could be one family or this situation that has so many complex issues. But I need you to know that I don't just shut off at 5 o'clock and then the next 2 days at the Y not address anything. I mean, I think Kyle called me on needing some advice on how to walk through a situation, and you know, the Y is very, very supportive that, you know, we have a contract, but you know, when needs are needing to be met, they are getting met. But yes, I enjoy being here anyway, but I also enjoy my team at the Y, and my team at the Y is, I still call on them to reach out. We have 3 kiddos that are in, you know, hard situations, and because we have a local donor, we've been able to put them through some childcare, some safe childcare, some offerings at the Y that I know there's a really loving adult teaching some of these, and it's not necessarily the artwork that they're doing, it's the exposure to the loving adult that could have those conversations and building those relationships and those protective factors around those kids. So,
Thank you.
Do you think it's a full-time job, or is the 3 days a week sufficient?
it could be a full-time job. We met today with my team on how to strategically plan so that we end up, growing, because,
And not,
there's 9 other towns that the Y serves, so.
because there's some stuff that I've been talking to individuals and working on that could potentially turn into that. So I was just curious if it was actually needed,
Yeah,
or potentially
it-
serve other towns
it
like
could,
Bremen,
and as it,
or
I think as folks realize, like, the beneficial pieces of community navigation, because it's not just the families and the individuals that are getting their needs met. Now I have doctors calling me and saying, hey, what would you do if this scenario? So in DHHS was prime example. Julie knows they were calling me almost every day one week, for the folks that they serve, because their caseworkers may not know this area, right?
Well, that was one of the things I was alluding to, is making it a local issue versus DHHS issue, that they have no clue what's going on.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that's where I was alluding to potentially going to, if it was feasible to go to a
yeah,
full work schedule.
yeah. But we need both, right? I mean, we need those state and federal resources to connect.
And that's what
So
I was,
again,
that's
it's
where I'm going with
teamwork
it, so.
everywhere, all the way around. It's teamwork. I couldn't do what I do without some of those representatives at DHHS to come back and then serve, because I might help on one end, but I need their
Mhm.
pull, or it might be federal resources that I need to pull back towards. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Yeah,
I'm working on something like that, so just,
yeah, yeah.
that's why I asked if it was actually really, if it was needed, if I should not put the effort in.
My dream is every town.
I don't know if that will happen, but I mean, if you could have a central
Exactly.
town like Waldeboro serve Bremen as using
Yep,
Bremen,
Yep.
Bremen using Waldeboro, and maybe even
Yep.
Nobleboro.
yep, like a shared service.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a doable
Yep.
plan,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep. And it's localized versus you have to go to Augusta, or you have to go to Rockland, or, you
Yeah.
can come to you. It may not be a DHHS issue that could be handled out of that office, which would actually take a load off DHHS.
There's definitely need. I don't think that there's a lack of need.
Yeah, and as folks understand what it is, I have to be really clear that it's not necessarily a crisis program or service,
Mhm.
that it's a connector, a convener,
Mhm.
or, connecting the resources to the need itself.
But some people at DHHS may not have those connections either,
Yeah,
at the local level.
at the local level, sure,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
That's why they were reaching out to Karen Ann that one week.
Yeah.
And I think too, we just have to also hit home. This is not taxpayer supported.
Mhm.
And we've been using trust, the trust funds that we combine to support this. We will be doing some, outreach to people. So if there's people out there who would like to support the program, and it's not about handing out money, we're handing out resources.
Yeah.
We're not handing out money or costing the taxpayer money. Karen Ann is directing people and getting resources from existing programs.
Yeah, yeah. And I keep coming back to, even with, say, landlords, it's helping them be educated too. It might just be connecting that piece that they didn't really understand about protocols or codes or things like that, or, calling on CEI to serve a family that they've got back taxes or they're facing foreclosure, when they didn't, when you're overwhelmed with something like that, you want to stick your head in the sand. And what we're doing is we're providing them that soft call of saying, don't stick your head in the sand. We have some solutions we want to give you. That's like one of my favorites, is that when they're too nervous to even come in the town hall, and then when they figure out, like, oh, there's somebody that can talk me into this and do a reverse mortgage, or those are the fun calls too.
Cool. Anybody else got any questions?
Just
The
a thank
audience?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, we will move along. We got a public hearing tonight. A liquor license for Topsail Farm. Would somebody like to make a motion to open that up?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All those in favor? All right, is there any public comment?
I just want to point out that there were no issues from the police department noted at all for this application.
Does anybody got anything to say?
I'm just glad they're here in town. I'm glad they're here.
It's a good
They
thing.
do a lot of things for the community that are really helpful as well.
I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
That's one.
That's another one.
That's another one.
I'd say there isn't any. Somebody make a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Well, yeah, would somebody like to make a motion to act? No? Would you make a motion to act?
That's right.
The liquor license.
I move we approve the application for the liquor.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? You are all set.
Done deal.
Any adjustments to the agenda?
One, if possible. I had the pleasure of meeting Sonia Sleeper this evening, who is applied to the Economic Development Committee. And I was hoping we could put her on the agenda for an assignment to that committee.
On this agenda?
Yeah.
So it'd be under new business?
Yes.
Has she been interviewed before?
Yes. No.
Okay.
This is the first time we've interviewed her.
Oh, you interviewed her today? Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Yep, so it'd be 10.1. And what was she gonna go on about?
Economic Development Committee.
Sounded closer.
That's 5.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to that adjustment?
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Okay. Guess that's all set. All right, citizens' comments. That's quiet. All right, select board comments. Bob, you're up.
To my notes here. I just opened a letter from the food pantry inviting all of us and our town manager to be with them on the 15th of this month to recognize Reverend Michael Murphy Day, which was created back in 2010, I think. He was the director of the food pantry for something like 20 years, and they like to acknowledge him.
What time is that, Bob?
That is on the 15th at between noon and 2 o'clock. And they're asking that we park in the Methodist Church parking lot because parking gets pretty tight up there where they are. So, and there is an MRC town hall on Thursday at 3 o'clock. And they're going to discuss what they call the fundamental matter. The towns have, under the charter that we have with the MRC, the town members, there are 83 towns that belong to this organization, and they represent 115 communities. They have the right to call a special meeting if towns representing 60% of the tonnage that goes into the plant ask for a special meeting. So this town meeting is to give background and information. And if a town wishes to have a special meeting to vote, then that meeting would also be held. But this meeting is on Thursday at 3 o'clock. and it'll be Zoom.
Colonel?
The only thing I have is the Sylvania Committee met yesterday afternoon and basically just talked about things that people had heard of that could go in down there. No decisions were made, just getting the list. And I think there were 11 people there. It was a good
Awesome.
meeting. That's all,
Is that committee full?
as far as I know, but they did talk about that, you know, there might be another position for somebody that would be interested and be critically involved.
We did have a person come in today and express interest who had expressed interest before, and I guess it went out of my mind, but Carl Sonberg. He was a recreation director, and their town took over it's a little different than our situation, a Superfund site. And they made it into a park area. So he has some good insight into that, and I thought he might be a good fit. I was actually going to send his application to you for interview.
Jan?
Nothing special. I did attend a preview of Madomic Valley High School's one-act play. One-acts are, it's a statewide play competition. And it was really, this was just a preview. It has, I think, 2.5 weeks before the actual one-acts. And they'll be held in Camden this year. And Madomic had a very serious topic, and it was done so well. There were lots of kids involved, and it was really an exceptional evening. And I got to see little Lucy Jameson. It's always fun.
Will?
Yeah, the Waldoboro Recreation Department's going to be offering adult pickup basketball starting March 15th, and it's going to run for 8 weeks, and that will be at the First Baptist Church on Route 1 from 6 to 8 p.m.
Well, moving right along. Town manager's report.
Did you have anything for the shellfish meeting?
I suppose I could share that. We had a shellfish meeting last week, and there was an email sent out by the Department of Marine Resources saying we was gonna have a potential downgrade in our river. By feisty Vice Chairman Glenn Melvin was all over it. They had taken a sample that they should have not taken, or putting it into our numbers for our classifications when we were closed, which they're not supposed to do, and added it to our overall score of our P90s, which we can't go over 31. And that would have put us over the top. We would have lost the west side of the river. And he screamed and hollered and said, "You can't do that. You're not supposed to do that. That's right in your protocol." And he got that reversed. So that was a lot of clams come out of that area. That was a huge hit. And we got another area that was supposed to be open last year, so gonna be open this year, that we've been right on top of them. Sometimes keeping some of these departments in check and paying attention to them is warranted, because some of these departments really don't, like, as a local level, it's nothing to them, at the local level, and it means a lot to certain towns. So we've got a shellfish committee is right on top of that stuff, so, it's a lot of income for people in this town, so losing that area would have been huge. So that's all I have.
So I have 2 things, well, I guess technically 3. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It is budget time, starting on Thursday, first budget committee meeting with the select board. And I want to point out that the books went out a day ahead of time. Big budget year. We have a lot of big items to talk about. We have a big increase in expenditures. We have offsetting revenues, but I think it's going to be a great conversation that we have with our budget committee this year. So,
Is there any openings on that?
I believe, Pam, there's currently we're full, but I think there's three positions up this year.
Okay, so it is full.
Yeah, it's definitely full. So just be aware of that, and we're going to meet on the Tuesdays that there is not a select board meeting, and every Thursday if we need to throughout the month of March. So we'll see how long it takes, but it should be exciting. The other thing I have is we received the DOT downtown report, and we accepted it at the last meeting, and I wanted to set the date of April 12th, our April 12th select board meeting, to actually have a presentation of that to the public. That way it's after budget. I thought it would be a good time to, it's spring, people might be apt to come out and talk about the downtown area. So I'm excited about that.
Is that it?
Well, I've heard a lot of rumors lately, and I just wanted to take a moment to address them. I addressed them in my town manager's report, but contrary to popular belief, I did not apply for the town manager's job in Damariscotta. I am quite happy here, so a lot of people keep asking me and saying, oh, I heard. Well, if you heard that, you heard wrong, because my heart's in Waldoboro, and that's where I want to be.
Damariscotta spreading the rumors.
Well, I wanted everybody to be. I've had employees ask me, I've had the public call and ask me, and I think I've been pretty open about that. So I just want to put any of those rumors to rest. I already work for the best town in Mid-Coast.
We think so.
Yeah, I figured you did. And I have the best employees, and I really do. I just have such a wonderful group.
What's that?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any
Second.
discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Okay. On to new business, 10.1, CDC appointment. Bob, would you like to make that motion in order?
Yeah, I'd move that we appoint Sonia Sleeper to the Economic Development Committee. She is a very interesting person. She moved to Waldoboro about 3 years ago. She was on the planning board in South Thomaston. So someone to keep in mind who might have an interest in that at some point. She works for a French company out of her own home. So there's a lot of telecommunicating going on. And she has an interest in what the EDC is doing. So I think it's wonderful if someone volunteers for a committee. We have room on the committee, and I would recommend appointing her to that committee. And
Is there a
she'd be
second?
set, if we approve it, she's set to go to their meeting on the 15th of March.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion? Anybody got any questions?
Good.
Who interviewed her?
Bob.
Just Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
And did you know her before?
No.
Or how did she come to apply for that?
She had looked at the planning board. They meet on Thursday nights. She wants to be involved. And because of her experience on the planning board in South Thomaston, where there were development issues, she kind of transferred that to an interest in the EDC.
Yeah.
So it made sense.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Good news.
And we just have to make sure that we send her a letter and let her know she was appointed.
Yeah.
So Pam can be tasked with that.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Old business. Life safety ordinance.
So this was brought up at the last meeting, and it wasn't technically in an ordinance form. So our max, $1 million, worth $1 billion, put it into an ordinance form so that we could look at it again. And you had time to digest it and have some comments if you wanted. And Stan's here to answer any questions you have, our code enforcement officer. Max is in the back, our planner.
Are we gonna vote to put this on the warrant? Is that what this is about?
Well, I think last time it wasn't exactly in the form of an ordinance.
Right.
And I know that there was some crosstalk during it, and I know Abden had some concerns during the last meeting he spoke about, so I just thought if we put it back on in its actual form of the ordinance, if you had time to consider it again.
I think it's a great idea. I only had some small nits, and I can talk to you about them
Okay.
later.
We can put it on the agenda again. I just thought, after we do the nits, I just wanted to make sure you and the rest of the select board, and Will, you weren't, were you at the last one? You were, Jan, you were.
I was not, but I did read this, and some of this stuff is already in the landlord's book, state. The state does require certain things. The smoke alarms and fire and the other. And there's a whole list, there's a whole book on what landlords need to do, as well as a book on renters' rights also. So I thought some of this stuff was really difficult, and maybe, a plan for a floor plan with measurements for everything. Seems like
You should have that right in the town office anyways, I would think.
well, not with all the measurements and everything, no. There isn't on, I just bought a house that really doesn't
In
have.
town,
Huh?
in Marlboro.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
and-
every one of my cards that I've looked at's had my
Huh.
floor plans on it, because that's what they tax you on.
I found a room that wasn't even shown on anything no one knew about. I thought it was kind of a fun room. I don't know, unusual name. I didn't think that it was descriptive of what it was.
So I think the reason they're called life safety ordinances is because of the smoke detector, the carbon monoxide detector, the fire extinguisher.
Well, yeah, there are that's some of it, but
Right,
that's only a very small part of it.
that's why I
it's-
think they call it a life safety.
Right, but that's
And
a lot more than
And
life safety.
if
in
there's
here. Yeah.
items you don't
Yeah.
want, if you wanna stick strictly to those
Yeah.
life safety portions, you can. But this, like I said, if you guys wanna consider it further, and if you would forward what you wanna strike out or what you wanna add, or please feel free to, and we can make revisions
And
and bring it
how
back.
does this work with the state one?
I'll turn that over to Stan.
Well, we're not more restrictive than the state. This just puts it all into one place for a homeowner or a company that's renting out property. Second floor for Egress Windows. So there's a lot of rentals, not just rental too, as a short-term rental,
Yeah,
where people are coming in and, like they've got no solar rates and
like Airbnbs and some of that kind of stuff.
I don't want to.
And there's a fee you have to pay to rent a house?
To respect it every 3 years, yes. But that'd be up to the selectmen to set that fee.
Well, now I have two places to look for it, with the state landlord's book and this too.
Yeah, but if you cover the state, you'll be well covered by this one.
I thought I was, but some of this stuff is a little, I don't remember in there.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just thought, and I don't think you were here, Jan, last week,
No,
I
she
was
wasn't.
not, no.
Stan made a really helpful presentation about the need for this type of ordinance that I
Yeah.
thought set the stage pretty nicely. And I know Abden had some issues with it too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said before, with the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide
Yeah,
detectors.
those are,
I had tenants, and it was a well-respected
Yeah.
company that was doing it. They were taking my smoke detectors down and unplugging them because their tenants that they were taking care of wouldn't leave them alone. So where does that leave the,
Yeah.
the landlord, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, they're violating, even though you have it set up for
Yeah.
perfect, you know, hardwired and everything, and
Yeah.
they take them down. I mean, that's not fair to the landlord if the tenants are doing that.
Right, there's some, I mean, just some, when I went through it, I said the size and intended use for each room. You know, I mean,
Like applying for
well, I mean,
a license in a way, isn't it?
well,
Yeah.
I mean, I would let the renter just determine that.
For some of these places that rent out, one of the things is the septic systems, and we're trying to clean up the river, so.
Yep.
If you say it's a 2-bedroom house, and that's what your septic is designed for, and then all of a sudden you put down there that you've got 4 bedrooms in the house. Also, you have to have a fucking septic.
Yep.
So we know automatically that there are no problems, there could be, we would look at it. And anything that's in here, we don't have the sheet for the inspection, but it's a yes or no. If we say that doesn't need it, and we're not there to shut it down, we would give the report back to the owner and say, okay, this is the issues that you have. You don't have a gas detector for this gas stove, you don't have a 5-pound fire extinguisher, maybe somebody uses it, and we'll tell you. This is 133 years, so I'm sure you don't go through your rentals deal with something, but this is just something for the life safety part.
And I think we have to point out that although most landlords are good, there are some that aren't.
Uh-huh.
And I would say that Stan spends some time out of his day dealing with issues that could have easily been picked up during an inspection. And so does Karen Ann.
And it's every 3 years, Stan, is that it, that you go through the inspection process?
Every 3 years unless the select board wants to amend the ordinance.
Yeah.
And then there was the other issue with the egress windows. I know at least one of my houses doesn't have egress. I had somebody that was interested moved in that had Section 8, and they wouldn't approve it because it didn't have an egress window upstairs. Which
Want
it's
to get out,
which
like
it's
an
an old
yeah,
house, so,
well, yeah,
you know, it's not gonna have egress
Yeah.
windows. So it
Yeah.
didn't qualify, so.
I don't think
You
my
know.
house, well, I have new windows now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
my house I live in,
But that was one of the issues I brought up with Stan is,
Yeah.
you know, and he says, well, maybe the fire department would know that. They wanted to just realize that the house doesn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I'm just kind of guessing Karen Ann might have something to say about this in view of the experiences she has had with people that she deals with who are renting properties that are not properly cared for.
I knew I stayed for a reason. There is a lot of time spent by Stan and I in, you know, we're not talking about the jams or the bathrooms. We're talking about, you know, we had some really immediate situations where neglect was being done in the central super kids. It is a shame, and it is life threatening because we've got kids that are turning on faucets, that are getting electrocuted, and they're living in side attachment garages and places. That's my experience and frustration. Having something from it that we can be able to coach, and again, just like I reported, if it's something that they're needing and they want to have a business, right? It's some sort of tool that helps us keep it accountable, but also with the planning and navigation to be able to give the resources to the players and what's difficult. And if there's, for lack of better words, not getting away with it. And I'm nervous for some families that are started to do
gonna be, everybody that rents is gonna have to get some kind of a license now from the town. Is that right? I'm reading that right?
I don't think it'd be a license, but they get an inspection.
So the floor plan and the size and intended use for each room,
It's a rental permit technically.
Yeah, it's more to find out how many bedrooms.
okay. Okay, I read it the size, and I'm kind of concrete, so I assumed the size meant the actual measurement of every room.
We can change it. We don't. We have a sketch. Three bedrooms and a bathroom, and you know, over 24 by 30.
Yeah.
We could, instead of saying the size and intended use for each room, I would say then, how about the number of bedrooms? Well,
Number of rooms?
Yeah, there are a couple spots in my little house that you can't tell what they were intended for. Like, what was this room meant to be?
Well, just for instance, I was online looking at Airbnbs, and there's a place down on the Waldorf River that says, in our file, that it's very, look at the edge.
Well, I have a camp like that. There's 3 beds in the bedrooms. You know, lots of beds.
Would you like to look at this more, Jan?
Yeah. Yeah, I need to
Anybody
check into
else?
some of those things and see if I have it or can get it.
Can we table this till the next meeting?
Yep.
When
Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'd make a motion to table it till the next meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Personnel policy on the holidays.
so we had a conversation about this last time, and I think Bob and I came to a good understanding of some of the definitions and how
You did a great job.
we could change it to make it understandable for all. So under benefits means any combination of health insurance, life insurance, workers' compensation, main PRS, income protection insurance, dental and vision insurance, leaves, holidays, and vacation benefits the town makes available to employees. So I think we did well trying to make those changes. We changed what the standard work week was to reflect what we are currently doing. Again, that's always changed up for grabs during budget season. Under the group life, we basically, because of the changes we made in the pension for EMS, we changed regular full-time employees because we now have part-time employees that are entitled to some of those benefits. So, and it refers to the town offers retirement benefits pursuant to MPERS rules or main PERS rules.
Are you on 9.1, Julie?
9.5.
9.5?
And I realize I have to take out the one MPERS, yeah.
And in 9.1, in the second sentence, there's a reference to full-time employees, and I don't think that you wanted to say that. I think you wanted to just say employees.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a correction you probably want to make then.
Well, it says to main PERS to eligible employees under main PERS rules is what it says now.
You're on 9.5.
No, 9.1 even says that now. I think I changed that.
Sorry, but the following sentence, the town provides base coverage.
Oh, that one, yes, okay, I see where you are,
That I
okay,
think should just refer
Yep.
to employees.
gotcha.
Yeah, okay. That reads really well.
Too many other changes, was it?
No,
I think it was just about it.
other than the holidays, the hours and full-time.
And the dates at the end, at the very, very end.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you approve it tonight, then it gets posted for the employees to review, and then we'll bring it back for final adoption.
I'd move approval, sorry, with the changes discussed.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay. And that we come back for a final approval?
And any comments that the employees may have on it.
80 Gray / VOA letter.
So we
Princess site.
received a letter from the VOA, and they are expressing continued interest in the 80 Gray site, realizing that the project scope has changed, that the removal of the school and remediation of the site would be needed prior to the construction of any new units. And they are aware that our Brownfields application was denied, and those costs would become part of the overall project. They are excited to move forward. I know you guys have been asking about what their thoughts were. They would still like to pursue the project, and this letter is them committing to the fact that they'd like to move forward with that project, and they'd like to honor our initial agreement that we had, and then work towards the final agreement.
Go ahead, Bob.
I hate to say this. Do we have to go back for a vote because the school is being taken down under this project, and what we approved in June was assuming the school wouldn't be taken down?
It would depend on the wording of the warrant, and I don't remember.
Max is right there.
I think part of the question is when we had the vote in June, that seemed more about the memorandum of understanding and which use we were considering. I think the attorney may have to be asked this, but I don't think the town has still officially done the transfer of the property. I believe it's still something we own until we have such a vote. So I'd say it still does need to go to the voters in the end when a final agreement is reached. But what I thought the June vote was more about deciding on the use, and if the memorandum of understanding, being the updated sort of agreement, is the residents being, again, content with that use while Volunteers of America goes forward with the project. We did the RFP this past winter for people interested in doing anything with the site, possibly preserving it, and we got no responses.
So we're going to the voters again anyway,
when there's a final agreement ready for
reached.
Volunteers of America,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
And that would probably, if they do have to take down, more than likely take down the building, then that will be in the agreement.
That would be in the agreement, yeah.
So the voters would be voting on that.
And I can confirm that with the attorney.
That would be my understanding.
So do we have to go back and amend the document we put together for them?
I will confirm all of that with the attorney. I just wanted, this is the first step. I wanted you to be aware that they are still interested. If you are still interested, then at the next meeting, I can provide answers to all those questions. And they said they'd be willing to come to a meeting also.
Good.
If you would like them to.
Good news.
Well, we put out the RFP again, and there was no interest. I did have a light discussion with a realtor and who's also an appraiser about that building, and if we could find a different avenue for that property other than the town having to take down that building, that was their suggestion. So.
And what would that avenue be? Do they have any suggestions?
Well, like they said, if you have a developer willing to develop that property, that would save you the cost of taking the building down. That would be an avenue. And I explained to them, we did not have a response to the RFP that we had put out. And, I mean, we did put that out in, you know, it wasn't just in the local papers, we put that out in the bigger papers and sent it to the Dodge reports and things like that, that put projects like this out to the general people who would typically bid on it, who belong to their bidders list.
So if someone were to walk in the door tomorrow, there is a window of opportunity for them to put something on the table? I'm just trying to get some idea.
Well, the RFP was due January 18.
Right.
They didn't do that. I don't think we're just accepting offers willy-nilly about AD Gray. It would have to fit into the parameters
I'm
of that
not, I'm not
RFP.
suggesting we accept them, just consider them.
Well, they
Would we
would,
want
I
to
would
do that?
say that it would have to meet the parameters of the RFP.
Okay.
So they would have to submit it. We have that RFP for a reason.
Yep.
That's all you just wanted to,
Right, and I will, if you think of other questions, I will reach out to our attorney, but I can find out about, I will reconfirm with the attorney the vote that is needed. And
So we want to respond to this letter. I would think sooner rather than later.
well, that's why I thought maybe we want to invite them to the next meeting,
Okay.
select board.
and we can put that on the agenda
Mm-hmm.
next month, next meeting, or next month,
Not next month,
next meeting.
if today's the 8th.
22nd.
Do we have one other thing on for the agenda for the next meeting?
Life safety ordinance.
And do you wanna do the personnel policy, you wanna wait on that?
I might not have enough time, because I think it has to be posted for 2 weeks, so.
Okay.
I think that name needs to change, at least with something about renters or landlords or something, so life safety could be.
Rental unit ordinance?
Hmm?
Rental unit ordinance, something
Yeah,
like that?
something that's more descriptive of what it is.
All right.
Believe it or not, the title makes a huge difference, cause people don't understand some of them.
Right,
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else for the agenda for the next meeting? Seeing none? Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor?